it points back to our original design, your design, Leah, your design, Laura. And sometimes we need to go to like factory settings and like reset something. Like if you get a phone, it's all wonky, the apps aren't working. It's like, okay, I need to reset this sucker back to factory settings. If your car batteries go out of whack, it's like, just reset. So that's the purpose of this short trading, is that in all the crazy, in all the ideas, in all the dreams, we can just reset here for a second back to our original God-centered design that will help give us clarity to where we want to go right now. So in order to do that, we might as well really just go right back to the beginning. Genesis 1, okay? So let's dive into this. And I will preface that all of these scriptures, if I quote them directly like I'm doing on this first page, it is from the Passion Translation, okay? Passion Translation, they just came out with a Genesis, they have Isaiah, they have the whole New Testament. Laura, I know you're familiar with this. So this isn't something I would necessarily use to like study, or what I'm trying to say, like hold theology to, right? There's other translations that are maybe more accurate, but this is written in such a way that it really breathes new life onto scripture so that we can understand it in our context today. But what I love, and it's so golden about the Passion Translation, and it's on your phone if you have the Bible app, like you can find it online, is the notes at the bottom. The study notes are like amazing. It brings all sorts of context of the Hebrew and the Greek and what some of these words actually mean, okay? So that's the version that I'm kind of sharing out today, and that's where I got some of these notes that I'm going to share today. Okay. So let's dive into this. The earth was completely formless and empty, with nothing but darkness draped over the deep. So you can envision dark, probably kind of chilly. I mean, if there's no light, it's probably not warm. Kind of chilly, vast. I'd be freaking out if I was in that darkness. And there is literally nothing, which is hard for us to comprehend. Think of, you're like lost in a dark room and you are the only one. That's the beginning of creation. But in all that crazy, or lack thereof, God's spirit hovered over the face of the waters. And what's so cool about hovered, which is why I underlined it, is if you look at what that word means, it means like a dove or a mother hen. You can envision a mother hen's feathers and wings over her little chicks. And she's just kind of like hovering them with her little feathers, just kind of making sure they're kind of all in, tidying the nest, keeping them safe, right? Just that active security provision. And that's what God was doing when the earth was void. Like, he was there, his creative power was there, his energy was there, his thought was there, his care was there. Okay, so what happens next? And then God announced, okay, so he's like the big mama hen with his feathers there, spread out, pondering, thinking, loving, and he finally makes his move and he says this, and he announced, let there be light. And boom, as we know it, the light bursts forth and everyone's like, thank the good Lord, I can finally see, because I was getting freaked out of my mind and a little cold. But God's like, I got you. He announced, he had the thought. So what's up, Habe? Gotta love this spare bedroom office life, and your kids can see you in the window while you're doing presentations. It's great. The word announced in Hebrew means amar. Okay, I didn't know what that meant either either, but don't worry, we're going to unpack this. Most often translated to said, right? So God said, let there be light. But it can also mean to think, to imagine, to speak inside your heart. So I want you to remember in the past 8 hours that you've been awake, what have you thought about in your heart? What have you pondered? Whether they're creative, whether they're to-dos, like what are those desires that were surfacing in your heart, in your mind today? Because this is always happening in the mind of God. And I love that. It's almost like, yes, he said it, but it's almost like the moment he had the thought, he imagined it, like, boom, it happened for him. And so this is kind of like our first application. Again, we're in Genesis 1, like Genesis 1, but there's already like, okay, there's clues here for my life, and not just in a way that's all up here and woo-woo. It's actually practical. So let's talk about, okay, if this is God's creative nature, what does this mean for you and me today? Your renewed nature. Okay, his spirit is hovering over you and within you. So that same spirit of God that was hovering who knows how long ago over the nothingness, ready in a second to create all of creation, that same creative power, spirit, mother hen, lovingly waiting for something awesome to happen, is still in operation. It's not like he made light and he made creation. He's like, well, okay, we're done here. Now let's go to another galaxy and find something else to create. No, he's actually still here. Okay. Okay. So your renewed nature. Okay, we talked about that same creative power is still hovering over you. So if that's who he is and he's in you now and your nature is renewed in him, that means, and gives me a clue of like, this is interesting, because then that means that you and I are also born to create. Especially, I think those that are on the call, those that are going through this program can relate because we're entrepreneurial. We're always thinking of stuff. We're like, yeah, sometimes I wish I could just stop thinking of stuff. That would kind of be nice for a change. But this is who we are. That same spirit is inside of us, wanting to create, wanting to manifest itself. And how we give birth to these things is actually using our words and not just discounting every thought or imagination that goes through our mind, but actually giving some of them credit and then speaking them out. And so this is a huge paradigm that I want to suggest to you. Again, you can search this out, you can see if this resonates with you, but it started to change my life. And this is the slight shift that is actually massive. What if most of your thoughts were actually God thoughts? Again, this is assuming we're in Christ, right? This is assuming our life is surrendered to him. He's come and given us a new nature. We are running after him on a daily basis to want to reflect his nature, right? So our hearts are in alignment with him. So this is assuming that. So assuming that's the case, what if most of your thoughts were God thoughts and occasionally they were your own thoughts? Versus how I grew up is like I'm always having thoughts, but maybe some of those are God thoughts, right? Like if I have a thought of like, oh, I should go pray for that person, or I should go help that person or give to this person, then that's probably God, right? Because that's like super obvious and helpful and everything. But I discount a lot of other random thoughts because it's just me, it's just my own brain. But what if we had a new level of faith that operated, and we're going to talk more about this in a second here, but that was so connected to him that we actually started to lean into, and yes, okay, I feel like I should need a disclaimer. If something is way off the rails, not aligned with biblical, like outside of accountability, like, yeah, those probably aren't God's thoughts, right? But taking in some of that common sense of really leading in and trusting our random thoughts as like, oh, maybe more of my thoughts that I'm having are actually the spirit inside of me thinking. Does that make sense? It's kind of weird and trippy, but what if it's true? I'll give you a quick example from my life, even in this past week. I felt like just when I was going about my day, like all of a sudden I had this thought, like, you should find out where in your city, for those who would watch the replay from another, happens to be Minneapolis, Minnesota, you should find out where in your city the commercial sex industries are zoned for. You know, where like the strip clubs and all that sort of stuff is going on in my city. I should figure out like where the zoning is for and just go and like walk around, you know, and pray and declare God's goodness and um, God's goodness over those areas, right? So those women and men stuck in hard stuff, not life-giving stuff, would maybe not be there anymore. And take this into consideration too, that a couple weeks prior I did a podcast with a gal who is involved in some of these areas, and so it's not something like totally out of the blue. But it was in that moment, right? So in the past I would have been like, oh, that's probably because I just had this conversation with this podcast lady, and you know, she mentioned doing similar things like this, and so I don't know, I just discount it. But this time I'm like, I didn't think about it too much because I know for sure it's probably aligned with the heart of God, and I just did something about it. So I got the maps of where that sort of zoning is for in our city, and I literally have a plan to go and walk around my city. Like, super random, but before I would have probably discounted that thought and just like pushed it away and be for a number of reasons. So, but for you, maybe it's for your business. Like Laura, you were just saying before the call, like I had some ideas around my business that I don't really see anyone else doing, but I had that thought. So what if we started to lean more into those sort of creative ideas, because that's literally who's living on the inside of us. So again, I want to keep looking back at clues, right? So it's all about like, what are some clues that we can find and apply to our life as far as like principles and original design mentality? Well, God called the light day. This is in Genesis 1:5. This is the account of the first day. Oh, good. Cassie and Jackie are on. Clues from the first day. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening, and there was morning the first day. Okay, so let me break that down. God said, hey, this is what the first day ever was like. There was night, and then there was morning the first day. So what he's saying there is like, you actually started with rest. Like all of creation is set up in such a way that you actually start your day at night. So what that means is that you actually have to sleep, you actually have to rest before you work, versus a life of like, we work really hard so we can rest. Isn't that crazy? Again, it sounds almost dumb. It's like so small and like slight edge, but that posture can literally change our mindset, our mode of operation. Again, from the constant hustle, do more, to no, literally my posture and how I was designed. Remember, this is not just a scripture. This is literally written in your DNA, in your cells, in your spirit. Like, it's who we were created to be. So when we can lean into that original design mentality, then things in our life start to fall into place because we're in alignment. So, what could this look like really practically in your life? Maybe some of you are, you can put this in the chat if you want. If you're a morning person or if you're an evening person. Okay, there's no right or wrong answer here. But what is extremely helpful is that if we start the day at night, then sometimes we can wake up, like for instance, okay, if that's really true, and again, there's no right or wrong answer. I get some people like to wake up early in the morning, but it kind of gives you a freedom knowing that your day starts at night, even from a health perspective. Here's why. Because for me, I've in the past, my hardest time of day, like health wise, was nighttime eating because I'd get done with the day, put the kid to bed, I'm like hanging out and just start eating for fun and you're bored, but you're like, I really don't need to be eating right now. But just like when I wake up in the morning and I want to have a good, healthy breakfast and start my day right to feel good throughout my day, well, if my day starts in the evening, I want to take that same perspective, even from a health perspective, because I want to start my day off on the right foot. So it just helps even from that perspective, which is crazy, versus like, well, it's night, whatever, tomorrow I'm going to try again, right? And then we've talked about sleep and the importance of sleep. But again, just the posture of like, we are a people, we are women who work from a place of rest. We don't work really hard to rest. And I swear this one slight edge in our life will, the ROI, we won't even be able to comprehend it from a business standpoint, from a ministry standpoint. From a ministry standpoint, let's just start there. Okay, if my role in life is constantly pouring out into others from a professional ministry standpoint, but I am not, we all know this is true, and I'm not filled up myself, like there's going to be some serious burnout there, if not immediately, eventually, and it's going to be bad. And even when I'm giving people now, it doesn't lead to true fruitfulness, versus maybe in my ministry, I have to put up some serious boundaries around, from this hour to this hour is my time with the Lord. No qualms about it. It's like Jesus. He just went off to praise. Like, where's Jesus? Are we supposed to like meet right back here at 3? And they're like, well, I don't know. He's in the garden talking to his father. It's just, he was like kind of unapologetic about that. And so in our life, what does that look like as far as boundaries go, as far as priorities go, as far as even believing from a health standpoint of like today was my rest day and I don't even like rest days. It makes me anxious. I'm like, I just want to go run or lift something heavy. But I literally have to discipline my body and say, Brooke, your body will be better, perform better, get leaner, recover, reduce inflammation if you take a day or two off. And so, again, I could talk about this all the time because it's one of the largest revelations in my life as an overachiever and perfectionist, which I know a lot of you can relate with. So that's why I'm spending so much time on this. But it's just interesting, again, going back to that original design, how he set up the universe. When we align with that, good things are going to happen, results are going to happen. And when those results do happen, they're going to be sustainable, and we're not going to be freaking out like, holy crap, can I do that again? I'm so wiped out. Like Laura or Leah, when you're doing your businesses, it's like you launch something and then you're so pooped, you're like, okay, I did it, but I don't know if I want to do that again. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's keep going. So God created man and woman and shaped them with his image inside of them. Okay, so I just skipped past all of the account of creation, okay? Because it talked about the animals and the oceans and the stars, blah, blah, blah. That's all done, okay? Now I'm just skipping to the time where he created us, okay? Because in my opinion, that's the coolest part. He created man and woman and shaped them with his image inside of them. Again, the good news for tonight, whenever you're watching this, is that you have the image of God himself on the inside of you that comes out for everyone to see. In his own beautiful image, he created his masterpiece. Okay? That might be a good one to like update a affirmation card on or something. And then God blessed them in his love, saying, reproduce and be fruitful, populate the earth and subdue it. And God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant growing throughout the earth. They will be your food. So here we go. He created man and woman in his own image. And we're going to talk about the actual account of when he created Adam in a second. But his image is inside of you. So again, remember when I was talking about what if most of your thoughts, assuming your life is surrendered to him, are actually God thoughts, and then some of them are your own thoughts because he's so ingrained in your DNA. So if God, his image is on the inside of you, he wants to bless that. And so he doesn't just create something and say, good luck, little chickies. He actually creates something with such love, and he wants like his desire for you. So again, I'm just speaking this over you as a declaration. Whatever you're coming with to the table today, whatever weight you're carrying, whatever roadblock you're up against, whatever enigma that feels like it's too big to solve, God already, before you were even created in your mama's womb, was blessing you and saying, you have been created to reproduce and be fruitful in every area of your life. And then this is the crazy part. He says, hey, go take care of the earth. Or in other words, for you today, go take care of your sphere of influence. Go take care of your business. Go take care of your family. Go take care of your friends, your neighborhood, your ministry. Like, go do that and do it well. And not only does he say, hey, I want you to go do this, he said, oh yeah, by the way, I already created a universe with every seed that you need to eat your food. Like he placed us in the earth with essentially like money, you could resources. Like we don't have to make the resources, they're already there. And he just plops us in the middle of it. It's like, well, go have fun. Go spend the money well, steward it well, multiply it. Like that's just amazing to me. So here we go. We had 6 days of creation. God had completed creating his masterpiece. So on the 7th day, he rested from all his work. So God blessed that 7th day and made it sacred because on it he paused to rest from all his work of creation. So isn't this interesting? Because God's last day of work was creating humans. That's what he did on his last day. And everything else, he's like, I'm just going to put the cherry on top and I'm going to make people. Cool. Well, it's super interesting because humans' first day of work, or ever, our first day ever alive, was resting with God in his accomplishments. Like he made us and there was nothing left to do. So all we could do was like sit back with the Father and be like, this is pretty awesome. Way to go. Thanks. Really appreciate that. Thanks for giving me life. Like there's nothing he could do because God already did it all. So isn't that interesting? If our day starts at night, starts from a place of rest, and you were imagined and created, and then your first day ever of creation, you just sat there with God, like that should be a clue. So again, like let's get practical with this. Like look at your life right now, myself included. Look at your life right now. Is there any area of your life, your business, your ministry, your dreams, where you feel like you are just up against a brick wall and you're like trying to make something happen so much? Like write it down if you're taking notes, or just like ponder on that for a second. Because if there is, and again, that's life. Circumstances happen, like we got caught up in the flow. It's totally natural. But that's why sometimes we need the wake-up call of our original design so we can go back and align to that. So whatever that enigma is, whatever that brick wall is for you, If you want to share it, you can absolutely share it. If you feel like you need to get it out, you can put it in the chat. If you just need to keep it inside, that's totally fine too. But know that, just think about that for a second. So you have your brick wall problem or your enigma, okay? Enigma is essentially a problem that doesn't have a solution, okay? So whatever that thing is, like hold it in one hand, figuratively, and like feel, how does that feel? Is it heavy? Is it prickly? Is it hot? Like, how does that feel to you? Okay. And now I just want you to hold it in your lap for a second. And then I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to take a deep breath. And I just want you to imagine this scene of you were just created as a fully formed adult. And you are sitting there with the Father, overlooking this beautiful garden, this beautiful creation, and you're just taking it all in. You're noticing, wow, that sun feels so amazing on my skin. Look at that beautiful apple tree. Look at that amazing ocean. Check out these new creatures. Oh my gosh, this plant like actually has this beautiful aroma. Like you are just taking it all in. And then the Father turns to you, is like, isn't this amazing? Yeah, I made this because I love you and I wanted to share this with you. And you still are holding this thing in your hands, in your lap. And he's like, you know what? I would really love if you just gave that thing to me because you know what? I already have a solution for that. And you can just like figuratively again hand the Father this thing, this weight, this problem, this enigma, like just hand it off to him. And you hand it off to him, okay, it's in his hands, and he just straight chucks it in the ocean and you never see it again. He just removes that weight from your hand, from your mind, from your soul as a reminder to you, because now you're not holding this thing. Your eyes, your attention is on the creation, the beauty, the wonder, and it frees up your brain, it frees up your spirit to now receive a solution from him, because he's already got the solution for you. It's just a matter of saying, Lord, give me the right solution. Give me the solution versus how do I create the solution? He's already created the solution, just like he's already created the entire universe. So just such an interesting posture, again, that we can realign with right now. So if that's the case, right, it can feel a little bit like, well, then what the heck do I do? Like, okay, what's my role? Because we all know as human beings, we can't just sit around, because I mean, just read Proverbs, like the person who is lazy doesn't eat, right? So like there's this constant tension of like, okay, I get that, but now what do I do with that? So let's talk a little bit about like, okay, how do we apply these principles into our life? So creation was created, man was there, and this was the current reality. Okay, after that is there was no vegetation, meaning that there wasn't any grain to eat, there wasn't necessarily fruit yet on the trees because there was no rain, and no food was growing because there was no one to cultivate the land. So God had created the creation, he had created this garden, but it was sort of just like there. And God couldn't do anything more with that creation until he had us to put in the land. Which is kind of an interesting thought. And I never really thought of that about that until recently, because this is going in order. So what happened next is, again, God had on the sixth day created Adam and Eve, as like declared them into being. But it wasn't until right now where God actually formed them. So it says God scooped up a lump of soil and sculpted a man. Okay, first of all, everything else in creation, if you read the account, God was just speaking, right? He was speaking, he was imagining, he was commanding, and like boom, things just started to appear. But man and woman was the only thing. We're not even getting to woman today. We're just going to talk about Adam because oh my gosh, the revelation and when he created a woman, I don't know if you've ever not liked being a woman, but you'll want to keep being a woman for the rest of your life. It's so amazing. So man and woman was the only one that he actually formed with his hands. He sculpted us with his hands. Everything else he just spoke into being. So that's pretty cool and speaks to your value and your worth. And he blew into his nostrils the breath of life. The man came alive, a living soul. Okay, again, we're going to dive into like, what does this actually mean for me today, my business and my life? So he became a living soul. God breathed, kind of like kissing almost in a weird way. Like he kissed life into his bride, like you and me. And our soul became alive. Okay. So our soul, nephesh, is one of the words for soul in the ancient literature here, okay? So that could be translated into soul in this context could be translated into to ask, to seek, or to request, as in prayer. So it can almost be translated into the creature that prays. So Adam, again, you and I are like an Adam. So us, like when we were born, when God breathed life into Adam and when he continues to breathe life into us. It's almost like he breathed life into us and we became this creature, this being that prays. So you could say we were manifested as praying creatures. Why? Designed to be in constant communion with God. Isn't that just like a crazy thought? Thinking about God breathed life into Adam, now he's a living soul. He's alive. A living soul that literally is like constantly seeking, asking, requesting, like yearning to be in communion with someone or something, i.e., the Creator himself. In Psalm 109, it talks more about this of like our nature yearning for the Lord. So this is such a beautiful clue again to your original design, to my original design, to everyone's soul is literally yearning to be connected, to ask, to pray, to request, to be in communion with their Creator. And a lot of people don't know what they're connecting to. They're yearning to find something of meaning, but they look to, we know all the things, to social media, to vices, to success, to whatever it is. But we know that we were designed with this thing and it's for the Lord. And so that constant connection is a clue that, again, if we have constant connection with him, which does not always mean we're always reading our Bible or always on our knees, like it's a thought, it's an intention, right? It's a mindfulness of like connecting to him as the source throughout our days. And from that place, we are extremely fruitful. And again, it's like we're growing in this, we learn, we're journeying into this place. But when we can get a glimpse of like, oh yeah, this is how I was created, then it gives us hope of like, okay, this is who I am. It's not a matter of striving or doing more, trying to be really spiritual. It's like, no, it's who I am anyways, right? Another interesting note is that the first thing Adam ever saw was the face of his Creator. So here's this dead dude, and God breathes into him. He opens his eyes, and he sees the face of God. First thing ever. Wouldn't that be amazing? If you could, like, wouldn't that be an amazing sight to see? I keep thinking about that. Like, what would that? I wish I could be a fly on the wall or something during that moment because it like change you forever. But there's this. Have you guys heard of imprinting? It's this, yeah, physiological thing, and I was reading about this with ducks, like baby ducks. Apparently, it's really a thing. Like within the first 36 hours of their life, the first living thing they attach to it. They're like, oh, that's my mom. So it could be a mom, it could be one of their siblings. Like it's this innate thing in them. They just imprint and then they basically reproduce and imitate that thing or that person or that duck. And so it's the same thing for Adam. Like the first thing he saw, he was like imprinted with his nature on the inside of him. And that's who he wanted to recreate. So it's like the same thing for us. We want to imprint on who he is. God's spirit, when God breathed into him, he gave him life, yes, but he also gave him intelligence, wisdom, light, and the very image of God. So if you're feeling right now uninspired, unmotivated, I don't know, if you're in a slump, if you're in a high, great, there's more for you. But it's great to remember that, wow, God, you breathed life into me in my mother's womb. And it wasn't just enough to help me breathe. It was also the intelligence I needed for life, the wisdom I needed to be set apart in the marketplace, to be set apart in my family, to be set apart in my spheres of influence and represent you well. So then God put man in a lush garden paradise. We know this. So I don't know how it happened, but he made man, and it's like apparently he just like dropped him in this paradise called Eden, the Garden of Eden. It's crazy. Think about that. And again, the garden already created, fruit already there, rain already there, dirt already there, sun already there. So again, it's like, okay, well then what do I do here? Well, this is what he did: to work, to watch over, and to cultivate. That was his work. That is his work. And guess what? That is your work. So your work is not to reinvent the wheel, to make something happen out of nothing. It's literally to, and again, to work, the Hebrew word is abad, means to worship. So your work literally is worship to the Lord. Again, it talks more about that in Colossians. So whether you're in the health industry, whether you're in ministry, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a lawyer, your work is actually this beautiful act of worship to him. So again, it's not like we have to have our prayer closet time and then we go off to work and it has to be separate. Like it's all one and the same. It's a constant flow. It's a constant communion. And if our work is worship, then he cares about our emails campaigns. He cares about our newsletters. He cares about the new clients that we're connecting with and how we're connecting with them and how we are presenting ourselves on social media. Like he's actually in that. So easy. It's just, for me at least, it's easy to compartmentalize that sometimes. And then to watch over. So to protect, keep, watch. So if you are in an industry that you see is being dismantled or abused, right? Like even the health coaching supplement industry, like there's a whole lot of stuff that's not really right. That's not the best option for people. So your job is to like keep watch to make those things right. To cultivate, again, to create a culture. So if you're trying to build a business or ministry, like first start creating the culture, cultivate what culture do I want to display in this ministry or this business? Because that's really your work. Creating a culture is really the work. It's not reinventing the wheel or striving or beating your head against the wall. It's just finding the resource that is already inside of you, the creativity that's already inside of you, partnering with him to find the resources around you. Maybe you need financial investors. Maybe you need mentors or accountability. It's just a matter of like, okay, who are those people, and latching onto them and understanding that truly our work is to create culture, to watch over and like prune things, right? And to know that our work can be fun and it doesn't have to be this really hard thing. So is that it? Okay. Yeah, that's it. Again, there's just so many notes, so many things, but I just wanted to touch on some of those biggies, at least for this session. Is that, I'll go back. Again, God's spirit gave you life, intelligence, wisdom that you need. the whole soul. Like, so the whole idea of like communing with him in all these ventures. Because again, we're getting to the process now where we're starting to take action, we're starting to get ideas, which is amazing, which is what you're created to do. So it's almost like, okay, all of us in a sense have been placed in the garden, right? We're like getting a vision of like, oh, this is where my garden is. This is awesome. But we have to remember, like, the garden's already been planted. There's fruit already there. It's just a matter of like cultivating, making sure weeds don't grow up. So making sure our mindset stays on point, right? We don't allow the lies of the enemy to creep in and steal, kill, destroy from us. It means that we partner with the right people that don't want to damage our garden and abuse it, right? And um just like the opposite, we want the right people to come partner with us. So like, who are the right people to tend this garden and to be in constant communication with him? um the whole idea of, again, we didn't even get into woman. Like, you were fashioned, everything else was spoken, but you were literally fashioned by God in such a unique way that the world around you needs to hear. And then going back to the account of creation of the whole posture of rest. So now again, like, we're starting to activate, we're starting to take action, like there's results happening, which is so exciting. But how do we continue to build upon that in a posture of rest in him, knowing that whether it's a good day or a bad day, I am confident in him. And almost, and this is the last thing that I'll wrap up with, and then we can dialogue and take questions, whatever else. Again, it seems so counterculture because it feels like, okay, if I just rest all the time, then I'm not going to get any work done. But it's actually not the case. When you have that place with him and in him, where your hope is set on him, he's giving you vision, he's giving you these downloads in that time, in that constant communing. Remember, just like Adam, like just like a constant flow of communication. When the floodgates, for lack of better words, start to kind of open up and that communication starts to happen, you really do start to operate in a place of you're doing less, you're less busy. But it's like, when you get the idea, when you get the to-do list or like the agenda, you're so confident about that agenda, about what it needs to be, about what you need to accomplish in your business, or whether it's even for that day, like nothing can stop you because you're focused in it. Versus sometimes we have so much to do on our to-do list and so much, it's all kind of swirling, but it's because we didn't really get the clarity in the first part. So we feel busy all day, and then we feel guilty at the end of the day for not getting all the stuff done. Versus that constant communion piece allows us to be just so crystal clear about what really matters, even day to day, that you're like, well, I didn't get a few of those things done, but you know what? It doesn't even matter. It wasn't even the main thing today. So it's a journey, but I just want to encourage you to keep leaning into that, because there is keys for each one of you that I believe the Lord wants to reveal to you in such a unique and specific way that even he has for me, that is going to set you up for a lifetime of fill the earth and subdue it type stuff. You know what I mean? So that's all I'm going to say on that for now. Cassie, yes, you can join me for the prayer walk. I was going to share that with you guys anyways. Yeah, so does anyone else have a revelation on this? Because I know you ladies are here too. I know this isn't necessarily new for you. I know you're each on this journey. So if you feel like you have something to add to that, I totally welcome. And then also, if you have just, practical questions, obviously, about your work this week or your process, Jackie and Cassie, Laura and Leah already shared their win for the week. So if you have a win for the week that you want to add in there, we'd love to celebrate that with you.